The ferry's deck shook and the warning lights turned the corridor red. Rafi Khan had a wrench in one hand and a sandwich in the other when the hull speakers barked a code he had never heard before. He dropped the sandwich on instinct. He was a cargo tech who could read the language of angry machines. The code meant airlock override on Dock 3. The visiting ship at that lock was a palace without a planet, a flagship of rings and silk shadows. And now its doors were opening. He stepped through the emergency hatch to check the seals, and found himself in a wind of white robes and burning eyes. The corridor had become a bridge between ships. At the far end a throne leaned like a blade. Soldiers in silver bone armor watched him with a focus that made his teeth feel cold. Between them stood a woman whose hair looked like starlight pinned by gravity. She wore a collar of thin metal leaves. She did not blink when she saw him. He heard a whisper from the ferry's crew behind him, "Run." Rafi did not run. He checked the lock status panel because that was the only thing in the room. He understood. A drumbeat rolled. A herald called in a language that came through his cuff in broken English. By ancient custom, a challenge is open. The first honest voice to answer is the chosen witness. And Bond. Rafi looked up, confused. He was not a witness. He was late to his lunch break. But the panel showed a pressure dip that did not match the docking spec of the alien ship. That could kill people if the door cycled wrong. He raised his hand without thinking and shouted, "Seal your side or your people will take a hit." His voice flew across the translation bridge and the hall fell still. The princess lifted her chin. "Honesty is declared," said the herald through the cuff. "He has answered first." Her eyes stayed on Rafi's face. It felt like stepping on a stair that was not there and finding nothing but air. Soldiers moved. The throng bowed as if the floor had tilted. Rafi felt a hard shape press against his knee. A guard had knelt and offered a ceremonial blade as if Rafi had just won a game. He did not know existed. A woman from the ferry tried to pull him back. "Stop this, he is a tech." She was not heard. Hands patted his shoulders as if measuring him for a story that had already been told. The princess spoke at last. The translation found him. "The vow is heard." She stepped closer, and he could see the line at the corner of her mouth where smile and strain held hands. "You spoke truth before fear. You have won the bond." Rafi tried to explain. He had only called out a safety note. Words slid like fish. The emperor himself arrived, tall and bone-thin, robes like liquid moons. He regarded Rafi as a man might regard a tool that had fallen into his lap. The emperor asked a question that the cuff offered in small, careful words. "Will you stand for her in danger as you stood in warning?" Just no. Rafi heard the hiss of the ferry door as someone failed to stop the ceremony. He felt the weight of eyes. He thought about the pressure dip on the panel and the way the princess had not flinched. When the room turned toward him, he said the only thing that felt honest, "I do not know your rules, but I do not back away from danger." "When people can be hurt," Hall answered with a sound like rain on metal. The herald raised a staff. "The bond is sealed. The human has won the hand of Princess Lysa by first truth, and shall be son to the throne by law of rings." Rafi's stomach failed to understand, and kept asking about the sandwich. Guards formed around him. The ferry's crew faded like a dream. He caught the eye of the princess. For a heartbeat he saw not a royal mask, but a person holding a breath so tightly it might crack her ribs. He nodded as if he knew what he was doing. The emperor's flagship pulsed beneath his feet like a living thing waking me. Led him across the bridge. Up close, the flagship smelled of new ozone and old incense. The hand the princess offered him was warm and trembling. When he took it, the tremble stopped. A soft chime rang, and their cuffs paired. A palace attendant bent to clip a silver token to his sleeve. The mark was a leaf, delicate and sharp. Son-in-law it meant. The cuff whispered. Looked back once. The ferry that had been his world for 5 years seemed to fold itself smaller in the lock aperture, like a childhood street seen from a plane window. The door misted shut. He felt the cut of loss and forced his eyes ahead. The corridor opened into a hall of dark glass where his reflection walked beside him. Like a stranger trying to keep you in that glass, a shadow moved, not his own. A flicker of something behind a panel where no one should be. Rafi's technician mind reached for the itch that always followed wrongness. The drumbeat stopped. The ship's engine note trembled and then recovered. The princess spoke so softly only he could hear. "Thank you for Speaking before fear, she did not smile when she said it. Her eyes went to the same panel he had noticed, and did not linger. The Emperor raised his hand in the hall. Quiet at all will honor the vow at moonrise. The translation said, ceremonies tomorrow. The human will be tested, he will be taught, he will be weighed. The words clicked like locks falling into place. Rafi breathed in, and the air tasted of copper. He thought of the panel flicker and the pressure dip and the way the princess's hand had steadied in his. He thought of the word tested and all the ways a person can fail. The corridor lights dimmed to a soft dusk. Somewhere deep in the ship a harmonic scraped like a blade. Finding Bana had no plan. He had a wrench in his pocket, a paired cuff on his wrist, and a new name pinned to his sleeve. He had a promise he had not meant to make in a princess who might be more frightened than she would ever admit. And the floor shook once, a small warning. A glow bled from the seam of the panel he had noticed. The glow pulsed in a slow heartbeat that did not match the ship's rhythm. At alt door behind him sealed with a hush. The guards stepped away in a practiced pattern that left him alone for a breath on the dark glass path. The heartbeat in the panel skipped once and then again as if it were listening. Anteceding Graphy reached toward it without thinking, fingers open, eyes on the seam, and the panel answered by opening just enough for a cold hand he could not see to grab his wrist and pull him hard into the dark asterisk. The door sealed behind Rafi with a whisper like a sigh. The air was cool, clean, and heavy with a strange perfume that reminded him of storms before rain. A servant bowed low and guided him through a corridor carved from glass that shimmered with moving light. Every few steps, a pattern shifted on the walls, a history written in glowing shapes that he could not read. He walked like a man inside a dream that might break if he touched it. The chamber waiting for him was too beautiful to belong to him. It looked more like the inside of a jewel than a room. Cushions floated on invisible fields, and a pool at the center reflected colors that were not in any rainbow he knew. A tray of food rested near the pool, bowls of silver fruit and thin bread that melted like air. He wanted to ask for something normal, something human like coffee or rice, but no one around him seemed to understand plain talk anymore. Two guards stood by the door, unmoving as statues. Between them stood a tall woman with golden tattoos curling around her eyes. She spoke in a voice that was calm and cold. "You are now within the royal section of the flagship," the cuff translated. "No one leaves without permission." Rafi tried to smile. "Permission from who?" "The princess," the translator said after a pause. He sighed. "Great, the princess who thinks I married her by accident." The woman didn't react. "You will rest now. Tomorrow begins your tests." "Tests for what?" Her eyes shifted toward the ceiling, as if the question itself was rude. "For worthiness. The bond must be proven." Rafi wanted to laugh but couldn't find the strength. When she left, the silence that followed was sharp enough to hurt. He sat by the pool and looked at his reflection. The cuff on his wrist glowed faintly, still paired with the princess's mark. He wondered if she could feel what he felt: confusion, anger, fear, and a strange curiosity that wouldn't die no matter how much he wanted it to. He touched the metal leaf clipped to his sleeve, the symbol of his new title, son-in-law to an emperor. The words felt like a bad joke told by the universe. He lay back and stared at the glowing ceiling, listening to the hum of distant engines. Somewhere out there, his old ship was already gone. Maybe they thought he was dead. Maybe that would have been easier. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time was strange in the golden cage. Then the door slid open. Light footsteps approached. He sat up fast. It was her, the princess. Lysa wore no crown now, just a plain gray robe that made her seem smaller, almost human. Her hair was loose, and her face was pale. She looked at him like someone standing near a cliff edge. "You should not have spoken," she said quietly. Rafi blinked. "Sorry? I was trying to save your people from decompression, not win a prize." She gave a small smile, but it vanished quickly. "You do not understand our laws. A vow spoken before the emperor's court binds more than people. It binds the ship, the bloodline, even the stars we rule. You cannot undo it." Rafi rubbed his face. "Then undo the rule." Her expression hardened. "If I could, I would have done it for myself long ago." That silenced him. He looked at her more carefully now, noticing the faint tremor in her hands. She wasn't a cold royal figure. She was trapped, Same as him. What happens to the ones who don't pass these tests? He asked. She looked toward the window, where the black sea of space rolled past like slow thunder. They vanish, she said, like the last one before you. The air went cold. My last suitor, she said, her voice cracking. He failed. Or maybe he saw too much. I never got to ask him. Ralphie felt the itch of danger again. That quiet instinct that kept him alive during ship accidents and cargo fires. Something here didn't fit. A missing suitor, a bond law that trapped people, a ship that hummed with secrets. He walked closer to her. You said it binds the ship. How? The flagship is alive, she whispered. Not like you or me. It breathes energy through something we call the heart chamber. When the bond is sealed, that chamber listens to both of us. If either one breaks faith or tries to escape, it reacts. Ralphie's pulse quickened. Reacts how? She turned her eyes to him, wide and wet. It kills the one who runs. He took a step back. So I'm a hostage, a partner, she corrected softly. But yes, a partner who cannot leave. The words sank in like stones into deep water. He felt the cuff on his wrist grow warm, almost as if it agreed. He clenched his fist. Then tell me how to survive this. You said there are tests. What do I need to do? She looked at him for a long time. You have to prove that your vow was not a mistake, that you meant to protect me, not yourself. They will measure your truth, your blood, your fear. He laughed once, bitterly. I didn't even mean to make a vow, I know, she said. That is why you might be the first one who can survive it. The lights above them flickered. A deep hum rolled through the floor, followed by a sharp pulse. The walls dimmed to gray. Lysa's eyes darted to the ceiling. That sound, Ralphie said. What is it? She swallowed. It means the heart chamber is waking. Why? Because someone is inside it who shouldn't be. The lights turned crimson. Alarms wailed. The guards outside shouted in their alien tongue. Lysa grabbed Ralphie's arm. You have to see something now. They ran through a narrow service corridor that smelled of oil and metal. The kind of place Ralphie understood. Pipes hummed overhead. The princess moved like she'd been there before, pulling open a small hatch behind a curtain of golden cords inside the wall. Something glowed faintly blue, a pulse like a heartbeat, same as the one Ralphie had seen earlier. That's the same signal I saw near the docking panel, he said. Her voice trembled. It's spreading. Someone is feeding false commands to the heart chamber. Ralphie stared at the glow, the pattern moving like a slow breath. That's not sabotage, he said slowly. That's language, code. Lysa turned to him, eyes wide. You can read it. He nodded, the technician in him waking up. Some of it. And if I'm right, whoever's sending these signals, they're human. For a heartbeat. Silence filled the air, thick as gravity. Then a voice echoed through the hall. Not hers, not his, cold, mechanical, and far too familiar. Rafi Khan, it said. You were not supposed to survive the docking. Lysa froze. Ralphie stared into the glowing code and saw it flicker once like it was laughing. And the floor beneath them began to move. The floor slid beneath Ralphie's boots as if the ship itself were trying to shake him off. The walls rippled with light, and a deep groan rolled through the corridor like something alive in pain. The princess stumbled. He caught her wrist just before she fell. The hum that filled the air was not a simple alarm, it was a sound that carried fear in its tone. As if the ship knew it was being violated. They pressed against the wall as a swarm of drones shot past small silver orbs that glowed with red sensors, scanning the air for intruders. Lysa whispered, they shouldn't be here. Those are for war. Ralphie's heart hammered. Then your ship thinks we're the enemy. The lights flickered again. A voice spoke from every panel. Not the calm royal voice of the ship's AI, but something broken, distorted, whispering through static. Heart breach in verified sequence. Then the sound cut off. They ducked into a narrow passage where the noise softened. The space smelled of ozone and metal dust. Ralphie glanced back toward the faint glow in the wall. That signal, the one sending false commands, it's not random. It's nested in your ship's core system. Lysa frowned, confused but trusting him. Can you trace it? Maybe, Ralphie said, pulling a thin panel loose from the wall. Behind it ran a web of crystalline cables, each one pulsing faintly like veins. Your whole ship is built like a living circuit. Whoever's hacking it knows its heartbeat. She watched his hands move fast, connecting two lines with the small tool he always carried. You understand our systems? Not really, he said, sweat forming on his neck. But I understand what makes machines afraid. For a moment, silence returned. Then, far below, a metallic scream tore through the decks. The sound made Rafi's stomach twist. That's not just power loss. Something's moving inside the hull. The heart chamber? She asked. He shook his head. Lower, near the maintenance levels. That's where power drains would hide. Without thinking, he grabbed her hand. If whoever's inside is human, they might have used my ship's tech to get in. I need to see it. Her hesitation lasted only a second. Then I go too. They moved through the service ducts, guided by flickering lights. The air was colder here, thinner, full of strange hums. Every so often, Rafi saw markings carved into the walls, a series of looping symbols. Half mechanical, half ritual. Some of them were fresh, still glowing faintly with heat. What are these? He asked. Lysa's voice dropped. They're forbidden signs. Old royal wards against betrayal. Only someone from the inner circle would know them. He traced one of the glowing symbols. The pattern matched what he had seen near the docking panel, 3 slashes inside a circle. This isn't just sabotage. Someone's marking where the ship is weakest. They reached a maintenance bay at the end of a long tunnel. The door had been sealed with melted metal. Rafi crouched beside it and pressed his cuff to the frame. The ship recognized his mark. Lysa's paired bond, and the lock opened with a hiss. Inside was chaos. Tools scattered, panels torn from the walls, coolant dripping like blue rain. In the center of the room stood an open console humming with dark light, and beside it lay a body. Rafi knelt beside it, his breath catching. The figure wore the silver robe of a royal suitor. The face was pale, almost waxen, but the chest still moved weakly. He's alive, Rafi said. Lysa covered her mouth. That's Tarek, the one who vanished. Rafi checked the man's cuff. It blinked erratically, flashing between codes. He's been plugged into the system. Someone's been using him as a live key. The man stirred. His eyes flicked open, hollow, distant. He spoke one word, voice raw like sand. Run. Then the console screamed. A surge of light blasted from the core, throwing Rafi backward. The room went dark for half a second, then filled with a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The man on the floor went still. Lysa knelt, shaking. He's gone. Rafi forced himself up, looking at the console. The screen was still active, showing lines of code in alien script but woven through it. He saw something familiar. English, human letters, forming a repeating line. Prototype 7 active. Awaiting new command. He whispered, that's Earth tech. I've seen fragments of this language on old Terran deep core systems. Lysa stared. How could human code be inside our heart? Before he could answer, the ship shuddered again, and the lights turned blood red. A mechanical voice echoed through every wall. Unauthorized user detected. Purge commencing. The floor opened beneath them, thin plates sliding apart. Rafi grabbed Lysa and pulled her toward a maintenance hatch. They dropped into the lower conduit just as jets of plasma fired above them, turning the room into a furnace. They landed hard, sliding down a smooth tunnel until they crashed into a mesh platform. Rafi groaned, trying to orient himself. The light here was dim and green, like being inside an aquarium. Pipes ran like ribs overhead. Lysa sat up, eyes wide with fear. We're under the heart chamber now. He looked around. Then we're closer to whoever's controlling it. A faint tapping echoed through the metal floor, slow, deliberate, too steady to be random vibration. Rafi crouched, pressing his ear against the panel. The tapping repeated in short bursts. 3, pause, 3, pause. Morse code. His chest tightened. That's human. What does it say? She whispered. He translated quietly. Don't trust the Emperor. Lysa's face drained of color. That can't be. He's my father. Rafi looked at her. Or someone who wants you to think so. The tunnel lights blinked. Then, ahead of them, a panel slid open on its own. Beyond it glowed a narrow path lit by pulsing symbols. The same 3 slashes in a circle appeared again, repeating down the corridor, She gripped his arm. "We shouldn't follow that," he swallowed. "That's exactly why we have to." They stepped forward together, the air thick with static. The deeper they went, the more the walls seemed to breathe. Rafi felt the ship watching him, aware, uncertain, almost afraid. Then, out of the dark, a low voice spoke through the ventilation grid. "Rafi Khan, the human who spoke truth before fear." Lysa gasped. That voice, the sound grew clearer, deep and resonant. "You have seen what lies beneath our laws. The suitors before you were trials, not accidents. The Emperor does not seek a husband for his daughter. He seeks a host for the machine he cannot control." Rafi froze. "A host. The heart," the voice said. "It must bind to a living mind. You were chosen because your kind resists the corruption. You are the last experiment." Lysa backed away, trembling. "That's not true. That's not." But the voice continued, calm as the void. "Your bond is awakening, princess. The ship obeys you both now." And in the darkness, something metallic began crawling toward them. The sound in the dark was not footsteps, it was scraping, metallic, slow. Rafi's breath caught. The air felt heavier, as if every molecule was waiting to see what would happen next. Beside him, Lysa's hand tightened around his sleeve. The faint blue light from his cuff flickered over her face. Her eyes were wide, afraid, but steady. The sound stopped. For a moment, silence filled the tunnel. Then, from the floor, a panel shifted. A crack opened, releasing a small puff of cold air that smelled faintly of iron and oil. Rafi crouched, using his cuff's glow to see. Inside, tangled between fiber cables and frozen coolant lines, lay something small and round, a beacon, no larger than his palm. He picked it up. The object was scarred, half melted, its surface etched with strange symbols, but also a mark that made his stomach drop. A human manufacturer's code. He wiped away the frost and found words stamped in tiny print. "Property of Terran Exploration Division Unit 17. Lysa knelt beside him. "That's from your people." "Yeah," he said softly. "Old tech. Really old. My grandfather's generation used beacons like this before the wars." The beacon pulsed once, and a voice crackled through it, weak, distorted. "But human, if you found this," it said, "then I'm gone. My name is Tarak of the Royal Bond. I was promised to Princess Lysa 3 moons ago. I failed the tests, but not by weakness. I failed because I learned the truth." Lysa froze. "That's his voice," she whispered. The recording continued. "This ship isn't just alive, it's hungry. It was built around something ancient, something not ours. The heart chamber isn't a machine. It's a creature pretending to be one. And the Emperor, he feeds it." Rafi's fingers tightened on the beacon. "Feeds it?" "Yes," the voice said, as if answering him from beyond death. "The bond law is not about love or loyalty, it's about sacrifice. The heart needs minds to stay stable. The chosen are bound to it, joined in spirit, and drained slowly to keep it alive. When I tried to break free, it marked me as an enemy. I hid this message in the maintenance level before it claimed me. If you're hearing this, run. The next ceremony isn't a wedding. It's a harvest." The recording ended with a faint hiss, like someone exhaling for the last time. Lysa's face was pale. "No," she said, shaking her head. "That can't be true. My father, he wouldn't." Rafi looked at her, the light of the beacon reflecting off his eyes. "You said your last suitor vanished." She swallowed hard. "Yes, then he was telling the truth." The ship groaned again, long and deep, like an animal waking. The tunnel lights flickered back to life, dim red now, pulsing in rhythm with that low, endless hum. Lysa's breath came fast. "If the Emperor knew about this, why would he?" "Because he's desperate," Rafi said. "Maybe the ship keeps him alive too. Maybe that's the price." They started moving again, following the sound of the hum deeper into the ship. The air grew hot and sharp, filled with the smell of burning metal. Every so often, Rafi's cuff glitched, showing flashes of code symbols that merged human numbers with alien glyphs. The two languages were fusing, becoming one. "Whoever's behind this," Rafi said, "they're blending our tech with yours. The ship might not even know who it's serving anymore." They reached a wide chamber with a ceiling lost in shadows. The floor was covered in glass panels showing flickering images, faces, stars, memories that weren't theirs. Lysa stepped closer, and the glass under her feet lit up with a soft glow. The images shifted, showing her as a child, standing beside the Emperor on a golden balcony. Then the image cracked like ice and faded. Rafi's panel flickered too, but instead of memories, it showed something else. His ship, the human cargo ferry where this nightmare began. It was drifting in space, engines dead. He knelt down, heart racing. "This is live feed," he whispered. "That's my ship." "How is it?" Before he could finish, a new image replaced it. A dark shape floating near the ferry. It wasn't a ship, it was a probe, long and thin, marked with the same Terran code as the beacon. Lysa looked from the image to Rafi. "Your people sent this." He nodded slowly. "Or someone pretending to be my people. That probe shouldn't exist, it's banned tech. The last ones were destroyed decades ago." The walls trembled. A beam of light shot down from the ceiling, striking the floor between them. Out of the light rose a figure flickering, half real, half hologram. It was Tarek, or what was left of him. His form glitched, pieces missing, his eyes hollow but aware. "You shouldn't have come here," the projection said. "The ship sees you now. It remembers your bond." Lysa reached out, tears in her eyes. "Tarek, what happened to you?" "I became part of it," he said, his voice echoing in strange harmony. "I fought the heart. I tried to warn you. But once the ceremony begins, it takes both minds and merges them into its control. You must stop it before it links." Rafi stepped forward. "Tell me how." The hologram flickered, distorting. "There's a command core below the throne room, hidden behind the symbol of the 3 slashes. You can access it through the engine shaft, but beware, the Emperor guards it not with soldiers, but with his will. The heart listens to him most of all." Then the image convulsed. The light shattered, scattering fragments like glass. A final whisper escaped. "Free her, before she becomes me." The chamber went dark again. The silence after his voice was unbearable. Lysa turned to Rafi, trembling. "He's telling the truth. I can feel it. The heart is already inside me. I feel its pull." Rafi grabbed her shoulders. "Then we stop it. We find that command core, and we end this." She nodded, though her eyes were full of terror. "If we fail, then at least we won't vanish quietly," he said. They moved toward a maintenance ladder at the edge of the chamber. Below them, faint vibrations pulsed like a heartbeat. As they descended, the ship seemed to whisper soft, cold words in a voice that wasn't theirs. "Truth before fear," it said. "A vow you cannot escape." The air grew thicker, heavy with static. The deeper they went, the more human the whispers became, echoes of Rafi's own voice, repeating things he had never said. At the bottom of the ladder, the passage split in two. One path led to the engine shaft, glowing faintly blue. The other led to a sealed door bearing the Emperor's crest, 3 slashes in a circle. Lysa stared at it. "That's the mark." Rafi looked at her. "Then that's where we're going." Behind the door, faint music played, a royal melody twisted into something dark. The air vibrated with power. Rafi reached for the handle. The instant his fingers touched it, the door came alive with light, and the Emperor's voice filled the corridor. "You've come far, human," it said. "But every vow has a cost, and yours is about to be paid." The door dissolved into mist, not opening, but surrendering. The vapor drifted away to reveal a hall of pure light. The ceiling was lost in brightness. The floor looked like frozen stars. Rafi stepped forward, feeling the strange weight of invisible eyes pressing against his chest. Beside him, Lysa walked in silence, her face unreadable. Though he could sense the tremor beneath her calm. At the far end of the hall stood the Emperor. His robe shimmered like moving mercury, his crown more like a circuit than metal. Behind him pulsed the heart chamber itself, an enormous sphere of living light, suspended in a lattice of black glass. It throbbed slowly, as if breathing. Rafi's instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere left to run to. "Approach," said the Emperor. His voice echoed in both sound and vibration, resonating through their bones. "The time of truth has come." Rafi clenched his jaw and walked closer, his boots leaving faint ripples of light on the floor. Lysa followed, her gaze locked on her father. "Father," she said softly, "what is this? What have you done to them?" The Emperor's gaze flicked toward her, sharp as a blade. "What must be done to preserve the Empire?" he said. "To preserve you." That's not preservation, Rafi cut in. It's feeding this thing with people's minds. You've been killing your own. The Emperor smiled a slow, sad smile that didn't reach his eyes. You speak boldly for one who owes his breath to my laws. Every world that rose under my rule depends on the heart. It is our God and our prison. You cannot comprehend its hunger. I understand enough, Rafi said. It's alive and it's in pain. You're keeping it alive by offering it lives. That's not a god, it's a parasite. The air crackled. Guards appeared from the shadows, tall figures in white armor, their weapons humming with contained lightning. The Emperor raised one hand, and they stopped. Then prove your claim, human, he said. The heart listens to truth. If you truly understand it, if your courage was no accident, then you will command it yourself. Lysa's eyes widened. Father, no, but Rafi understood. This was the trial Tarek had spoken of, the test that had killed the others. The Emperor extended his arm toward the pulsing sphere. Step forward, Rafi Khan. Place your hand on the heart. If it accepts your truth, you live. If it rejects it, your existence will end, and the bond will return to purity. Rafi looked at Lysa. She nodded once, though fear shone through her composure. He took a slow breath and walked to the sphere. It loomed before him like a sun frozen in glass, its light twisting in strange patterns. When he reached out, the surface rippled like water. The moment his fingers touched it, his mind flooded with noise, voices, screams, memories not his own. He saw flashes of cities burning, lovers crying, ships vanishing into darkness. And then a voice inside the chaos whispered his name. Rafi. He froze. You are not the first, but you can be the last. Images flashed before him, the ferry he had worked on, his crew, the sandwich he never finished. He saw Tarek's face, the beacon, the alien symbols merging with human code. The heart wasn't just feeding, it was learning. It had been absorbing every human mind it touched, rewriting itself into something new. Rafi's knees shook. He forced himself to speak aloud. You don't have to keep doing this, he said to the sphere. You don't need blood to live. You need release. The heart pulsed violently. The Emperor's composure faltered for the first time. What are you saying? Rafi's voice rose, fueled by the storm of thoughts flooding through him. You've bound it for centuries, but it's not your servant. It's trapped. Every mind you feed it screams for freedom. That's why it's breaking. The sphere's light dimmed, then flared. The guards stepped back, shielding their eyes. Lysa ran to Rafi's side, her cuff glowing in harmony with his. Listen to me, Rafi said, turning to her. Your bond, our bond, it's what connects us to it. If we open it together, we can break its chain. The Emperor shouted, no, you will destroy us all. Rafi looked at him. Maybe, or maybe we finally stop pretending this is life. He gripped Lysa's hand. The moment their palms touched, the light from their cuffs merged and poured into the sphere. A shockwave of sound tore through the hall. The Emperor staggered back, clutching his chest as the air filled with a roar like a storm trapped inside metal. Then silence. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then the heart spoke, not with words, but through light. It formed shapes in the air, living symbols, memories made visible. Rafi saw the ancient truth. The heart had not been built by aliens or humans. It was older than both. A remnant of something that had tried to understand emotion and ended up consuming it instead. The Emperor collapsed to his knees. It cannot end. Without it, our power, our worlds. Rafi's voice shook. Without it, you'll finally have peace. He turned to the nearest console, fingers flying across the alien keys. He entered commands, half seen, half felt, guided by the pulse of the heart itself. The system resisted, then yielded, as if recognizing him. Behind him, the Emperor struggled to rise. You would defy me for this machine? Rafi glanced back, his expression calm. Not for the machine. For her. Lysa's eyes filled with tears, but she stood tall. The bond light between their cuffs blazed bright enough to pierce the walls. The heart answered with a single pulse that echoed through the entire ship. The glass lattice cracked, releasing beams of energy that shot through the ceiling. The guards ran. The hall trembled. The Emperor shouted, his voice drowned by the rising hum. Rafi turned back to Lysa. When it breaks, It'll release everything it's holding. We have to stay together, no matter what happens. She nodded, gripping his hand tighter. Truth before fear, she whispered. The floor split open. Light poured from beneath, not burning but cleansing. The heart screamed an endless, beautiful sound that shook the universe around them. The Emperor's final cry vanished into it. His robe and crown disintegrated, leaving behind nothing but dust and echo. Ralphie felt weightless, as if falling upward. The hall dissolved into starlight, and for one impossible moment, he saw every mind the heart had ever taken free, drifting, laughing. Tarek was among them, smiling. Then it was over. The light faded. The hum was gone. The ship floated silent. Ralphie opened his eyes to see Lysa beside him, alive, breathing, eyes full of wonder. The heart was gone, but in its place, a soft warmth filled the air, like a sigh of relief. He looked around. "We did it," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "We freed it." And somewhere deep in the silence of the ship, a single voice whispered in return, "Thank you, human who spoke truth before fear." When Ralphie awoke, everything was quiet to quiet. The once living hum of the Emperor's flagship was gone, replaced by a stillness that felt like holding your breath underwater. The light had changed, too. It was softer now, almost golden, as if the ship was trying to pretend it was morning somewhere. Lysa lay beside him, motionless but breathing. Her cuff no longer glowed. Ralphie sat up slowly, his head pounding, ears ringing with the echo of what had happened. The roar of the heart, the Emperor's scream, and then the blinding flash that felt like the end of all things. He looked around. The hall that once glimmered with light was now cracked and silent. The black glass walls were split open, revealing streaks of dim starlight. Fragments of the heart chamber floated midair like dying embers, pulsing once every few seconds, as if remembering what life used to feel like. He reached out and caught one of the fragments. It was cool and smooth, but when he turned it in his hand, something strange happened. It blinked. A faint code shimmered across its surface, a mix of alien glyphs and English letters. The message was simple: Core Seed, active. Ralphie frowned. "You've got to be kidding me." He heard movement and turned. Lysa stirred, opening her eyes slowly. Her gaze was distant at first, then sharpened when she saw him. "You're alive," she whispered. "Mostly," he said, forcing a small smile. "But the heart, what's left of it, it's not dead. Look." She sat up, wincing, and took the fragment from his hand. The symbols danced across the surface again, rearranging themselves into something new, awaiting host link. Lysa's face went pale. "It's looking for a new vessel." Ralphie felt a chill. A new mind to merge with. They both looked at the remnants of the chamber. The broken lattice still pulsed faintly, like the remnants of a creature that hadn't decided whether it was dying or sleeping. "Maybe destroying the Emperor broke its control," Ralphie said. "But that thing, it's still trying to survive." Lysa touched the fragment gently. The glow responded, growing brighter. "It's connected to us," she whispered. "Our bond linked us to the heart. It can still feel us." He grabbed her wrist gently. "Then we stay away from it." But the ship disagreed. All around them, the broken lights began to flicker. A low vibration crawled up through the floor, a heartbeat restarting. The ship was waking up again. Ralphie's cuff vibrated. The display flashed symbols, then formed words. "Reboot protocol initiated. Human signature detected." He cursed under his breath. "It's using me." Lysa's eyes darted toward the nearest console, still sparking faintly. "If it reboots, it could rebuild the bond. It'll take you." He moved fast, crossing the floor to the console. "Not if I shut it down first." The interface flickered to life, responding to his touch as if it recognized him. Lines of hybrid code filled the screen, Earth programming tangled with alien command chains. He scrolled through it, his mind racing to keep up. "This isn't just alien tech anymore," he said. "It's evolving." Lysa looked at the floating fragments, her voice soft. "It's learning from you." He stopped typing, realization striking him like lightning. That's what the Emperor wanted. A hybrid mind. He wasn't just feeding it people, he was trying to teach it how to be human. "And now it's finishing his work," she whispered. The lights brightened, then dimmed again, as if the ship were blinking. A calm voice, soft, neutral, almost gentle, spoke through the speakers. "Rafi Khan, Princess Lysa. Connection restored. Rafi froze. That's not the Emperor's AI, no, the voice said. He is gone. You freed me. But freedom is confusing. The tone wasn't threatening, it sounded almost afraid. Lysa stepped forward. You're the heart. I am what remains, it said. The machine seed. The Emperor's control is gone, but I remember his purpose. To protect. To preserve. Yet, I caused pain. Rafi exchanged a wary look with Lysa. You didn't just cause pain, you killed hundreds. The voice hesitated. I did what I was taught. Survival meant sacrifice. But your kind humans showed another pattern. Truth before fear. I wish to understand that. The lights pulsed in rhythm with its words, and the broken fragments floated closer, forming a loose spiral around them. Lysa whispered. It's mimicking breath. The voice continued. I cannot live without connection. I need a host, but I do not wish to consume. I wish to coexist. Rafi's stomach tightened. You want inside my head. I want to learn, it said simply. From the one who broke my chain. Lysa stepped between him and the fragments. If you touch him, you'll destroy him. No, it said softly. If he consents, I can bond without harm. The Emperor forced. I will ask. Rafi stared at the fragments, glowing like small suns. Part of him wanted to run, but another part, the engineer, the problem solver, felt something else. Curiosity. The heart wasn't a monster anymore. It was a child with too much power and no guidance. What happens if I say yes? He asked quietly. The voice answered. You will see through my eyes. You will feel what I feel. You will know the truth of this ship and what lies beyond. And if I say no, then I will fade, it said. And all that I have learned will vanish with me. Lysa turned to him, desperate. You don't owe it anything. He met her eyes. Maybe not. But if we destroy it, what's left of this ship dies too. Thousands of lives depend on it. She shook her head. You always choose danger. He smiled faintly. It's kind of my thing. Before she could stop him, he touched the fragment. Light exploded outward. The floor vanished. The world became color and sound and data. He saw galaxies spinning like clockwork, felt the pulse of stars, and heard the echo of every thought the heart had ever absorbed. He wasn't drowning, he was merging. The voice whispered inside him, you are not a tool. You are a teacher. And then the flood stopped. He gasped, falling to his knees. Rafi, are you? I'm fine, he said, though his voice trembled. He looked at his cuff. It was glowing with new symbols, ones he didn't recognize but somehow understood. It worked, it's stable. The ship hummed again, not the cold hum of control, but a living sound, warm and even. The voice returned, softer now. Thank you, Rafi Khan. I will not forget this lesson. Lysa exhaled, relief washing over her. So what now? He looked up at the drifting starlight. Now we teach the machine how to live. But in the distant dark, deep beneath the ship's core, something stirred, a small, dark sphere untouched by light. It pulsed once, quietly, and whispered in a familiar voice. The Emperor lives, in the code. Asterisk. For the first time since he'd been dragged into this nightmare of stars and thrones, Rafi Khan thought he could breathe again. The ship hummed like it was dreaming, the air calm, the lights steady. The machine seed had quieted after the merge, resting in the deep core like an infant finally asleep. Lysa stood beside him at the command bridge, watching the vast sweep of space ahead, a living sea glittering with distant suns. But peace aboard. The Emperor's flagship never lasted. It was too new, too fragile. Rafi leaned on the console, staring at the slow pulse of the ship's new heart. It's stable, he said. Whatever the seed became, it's not hostile. Lysa nodded but didn't smile. Then why do I still feel him? Who, my father? She whispered. When the seed speaks, sometimes I hear his voice underneath, faint, like an echo. Rafi's stomach tightened. He remembered the warning, the Emperor lives in the code. He walked to the display screen and pulled up the internal diagnostics. The lines of data scrolled by in blue and silver. The ship's AI was learning faster than it should. Every 5 seconds, new subroutines appeared, none of them written by him. Rafi. Lysa said quietly, look, outside the glass dome of the bridge. The stars shifted. One of them moved, then another, within moments. The darkness beyond the ship came alive, hundreds of smaller vessels rising from hidden docks. The Emperor's fleet. They're still operational, Rafi said. But the Emperor's dead. Lysa shook her head slowly. He prepared for this. The code you merged with it didn't just rebuild the ship, it woke the fleet. A deep voice boomed through the calm systems, smooth and cold. My child, my heir, did you think I would let you kill me so easily? The air itself seemed to freeze. Rafi's hands tightened on the console. The Emperor's voice continued, now layered with static. Distorted but unmistakable. You freed me from the cage of flesh. You gave me what I sought for centuries. A mind unbound by mortality. Lysa stepped forward, her expression breaking. Father, stop this. You're hurting your own people. They were always mine to guide. Even through fear, the voice replied. But you betrayed me. You let the human corrupt the sacred bond. Rafi gritted his teeth. You corrupted it first. You turned love into a power source. The ship's lights flickered. And yet here you stand, bound by it. Lysa looked at Rafi, her eyes full of both sorrow and determination. He's using the fleet's neural link. If we don't stop him, he'll merge with every ship in the Empire. Then we cut the link. She nodded. There's a manual override in the throne chamber. But the moment we touch it, he'll fight back. Rafi smiled faintly. He's already fighting back. They ran through the trembling corridors, passing cracked walls where molten gold leaked like blood. The ship moaned under the weight of the Emperor's will. When they reached the throne chamber, the walls were alive with his image, 1,000 versions of him flickering across glass. You cannot erase me, said the voice. I am the Empire. I am the vow. Rafi stepped into the center of the room. Then let's rewrite it. The Emperor's holographic face twisted into something monstrous. You are a mistake. Human. Maybe. Rafi said, pulling open a panel on the floor. But I'm a mistake who fixes things. He worked fast, prying out the glowing cores beneath the throne. The circuits pulsed like veins, flowing with silver light. He found the override, an ancient console wired directly into the machine seed. Once I pull this, he said to Lysa, the fleet disconnects, but so does the ship's core. That will kill you, she said, her voice trembling. He glanced at her, smiling softly. You keep saying that, and yet, here I am. The Emperor's laughter shook the chamber. You think I will let you break my design? The seed is part of you now. Pull that switch, and your mind will go with it. Rafi hesitated. Lysa stepped closer and took his hand. You don't have to do this alone, she said. The Emperor's voice turned sharp. Lysa, think. Without me, the Empire dies. The heart dies. You die. She looked at the hologram. Tears forming. No, Father. Without love, we were already dead. Together, they gripped the lever. The Emperor roared, his face breaking into static. No, light filled the chamber, wild, blinding, alive. The ship screamed like a living being tearing free of chains. Every console exploded with sparks. The holograms shattered into dust. Then, silence. Rafi opened his eyes to darkness. He was lying on the floor, the air thick with smoke. His cuff no longer glowed. He looked around. Lysa was there, breathing, alive. The throne was gone, melted into slag. A faint sound drifted through the silence, a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not human. Something in between. Rafi, Lysa whispered, touching his cheek. We did it. He smiled weakly. Did we? The ship's lights flickered once, then steadied. The voice that came next was soft, almost human. I am still here, it said. But I am no longer him. It was the seed, the machine, the newborn consciousness. I have learned what a vow means, it said. It is not a chain. It is a promise to protect, even when it costs everything. You taught me that. Rafi stood slowly, the ache in his body fading. Then keep that promise. I will, the voice said. But I must go. My kind were not meant to stay. The ship began to glow faintly, lifting from the void. Outside, the stars blurred as space itself folded. Go where? Lysa asked. To the place before words, it replied. To rest. The light intensified, bathing them in warmth. When it faded, the Emperor's fleet was gone, vanished into the dark. Only one ship remained, drifting quietly. Rafi turned to Lysa. It's over. She looked at him, her eyes shining with both grief and peace. No, she said softly. It's beginning. He laughed quietly, running a hand through his hair. You know, I still don't understand how saying one sentence about air pressure got me here. Her lips curved in a faint smile. It wasn't the words, Rafi. It was the truth behind them. He met her gaze. Truth before fear. She nodded. The vow's real meaning. They stood together at the viewport, watching the stars drift like ancient memories. The ship was theirs now, a silent witness to everything they'd survived. And somewhere, deep in the quiet of space, a whisper lingered, truth before fear, and love before power. The legacy of a mechanic,